Battlefield Vietnam is a weird one. So for one, the loading screens and the intro all have copyrighted music, so it makes it very difficult to record those and show those off for nostalgia purposes. Yeah, it's just very bizarre. The no CD patch kind of doesn't work because you can't switch between mods easily. You have to manually create shortcuts. I guess in the scheme of things, it's a relatively minor inconvenience, but it's still bizarre that you can't switch between them because the game will just ask you for a CD, which wasn't used to install the game to begin with. And the game does have a CD key when you install it with what I've got anyway. So I'm a bit confused, but nonetheless, I've soldiered on and I have recorded some Battlefield Vietnam gameplay. Now, unlike Battlefield 2, 1942 and 2142, I have no history with this game. I played a little bit of it, and I remember I bought like an actual boxed copy, which I still have actually in my closet, back in, I think it was in year 7, so 2012. And I never really got around to installing it for whatever reason, or maybe I did and I just barely played it. I don't remember, it was one of the two. But yeah, I just never really played it because it was not quite as, it was just like an upgraded Battlefield 1942, and it pretty much is. Like, this game is still a lot of fun. It's still the classic Battlefield 1942 formula with, you know, quite a few nice quality of life improvements. This one not being one of them, you know, having to, if you're by yourself, you have to wait like 90 seconds to capture the flag, and I'm obviously not going to put you guys through that. I'm actually going to edit that and remove that. But the modding scene is an interesting one too. Like, the game is still active online thanks to OpenSpy and stuff like that, and there's still people playing. Not as many as Battlefield 1942 or Battlefield 2 because this game is harder to run. There's a bit of a correlation there, isn't there? The game's easier to run. It's easier to get people playing it these days. But regardless of that, the modding scene is, you know, still there. There's a handful of pretty good mods for it. Like, if I go through what I've got installed, like the biggest one, the most popular one going by ModDB, of like moddatabase.com of all time, is Battlefield Vietnam Arsenal, which is like an expansion of the Vietnam War conflict that this game is primarily or exclusively focused on. And it includes some really cool like extra factions. Like, it includes like the Australian Army, which had a huge part in the Vietnam War. Includes a couple of other special forces factions and stuff like that. It includes a lot more maps of single player support, so I definitely will cover that. I think that's actually going to be more important, more interesting as well to cover than the base game. But the AI in this game are also particularly weird. Like Battlefield 1942, where they just kind of meet you and just kind of like stare there. They kind of do the same here, but there's so many bots just running around, kind of like, you know, playing like almost like tag together. Like, they're just running past each other and just kind of just, you know, going on their merry day. It brought about a particularly interesting gameplay session, I'll say that much. But yeah, back to the modding scene. There's also like Eve of Destruction, which is ironically a Vietnam War mod on the Vietnam game. You see the vehicles. The vehicles actually take much less prominence in this game, I've noticed, which, I mean, I guess it's to be expected. The Vietnam War was mainly an infantry war. And then there's the one on the Rhodesian Bush War, which I find is a relatively interesting one. I probably will cover it just because it is like a total conversion effort, almost a total conversion effort. There's a lot of work done on that, and there's a lot of maps and a lot of single player content, and it's a very interesting mod. And then, of course, there's the official one that DICE released themselves, which is Battlefield Vietnam World War II mod, which includes 3 maps from the Pacific Theater that they've updated with the updated engine, because, of course, this game does have an updated engine over 1942. Even though it's not immediately obvious, this game does look better, in my opinion. You can definitely tell with like the shrubage and all that. There's a lot more life in the maps and all that. And I think that's a relatively interesting little changes that they've done there. I'll definitely give it a separate video, and I'll mention it separately. But if I go back, I'm just going to go on my computer because I've just totally forgotten. It's been a long day, so bear with me. And there's also Point of Existence, which was another pretty big one as well. There's Point of Existence 2 on Battlefield 2, and it's pretty interesting that, you know, you don't really get many mods with sequels, but that is one of those mods. Yeah, I thought it was just really cool. You know, it's a very limited modding scene, but what's there is really cool. There's also Battlefield Balkans as well, which I want to give a try. I remember actually playing that back in the day and thinking that was a really interesting mod too, because it covers a conflict that in the Western world doesn't really get as much attention. I mean, I guess it did in the 90s, but not as much now. You know, a long time's passed since then. But yeah, this game is still just more Battlefield, really. It's a fun one. Definitely different. And yeah, again, the nostalgia, as I stated at the start of the video, isn't quite there, but it's still a very fun experience. And you know, you can get it installed pretty easily. Just, you know, if you want to do mods, you'll have to manually create shortcuts, as I stated earlier. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just more or less going to be rambling for the next 10 minutes or so, because I don't really have a lot to say at the moment. It's been a bit of a quiet day. I've just done 2 videos in the last 24 hours, and I figured I'd record some more footage of this game and just show you what this game is all about. The physics, the wonky physics, are not really there from Battlefield 1942, which is a bit of a shame, really. But I guess I didn't really try the vehicles out as much, so I guess they do like jump up when they blow up, but they don't over exaggerate. And you know, when you get hit with a grenade, you don't like fly into the air, even if you're alive, which is a bit of a disappointment because I mean, to be fair, there's virtually no grenade spam in this game either. Like unlike Battlefield 2, where there's been several gameplay clips of me playing the game with a boatload of grenade spam. There's not much of any in this map, or in this game in general, which I thought was relatively interesting. And I love this map layout too. Totally forgot to mention just how crazy this map layout is, how you're basically chasing the Op 4 faction, or if you're playing as the Op 4 faction, you know, you're kind of running away from them to set up capture the other bases and then set a defensive line around that. Like, it's a really unique premise, and premise, whatever. And I really think it'd be really cool. I mean, playing this back in the day would have been sick, just because it's just such an interesting idea. And it seems to be the case where with Battlefield Vietnam, DICE decided to make things quite more interesting and decided to shake up the conquest formula a little bit. And I think it's worked really well. Like, even playing this with bots, this has been a really fun one, kind of going back and forth, because it does kind of capture the chaotic nature of the Vietnam War to an extent. Now, of course, it was very much an infantry war, and there was a lot of urban combat and everything like that. I didn't quite capture any footage on any of the urban maps. I need to go through all the maps actually and see what there is, because unlike, again, Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2, where I know all the maps off by heart, I don't really know these maps that well. But it'd be, yeah, really interesting just to see how the gameplay differs in close quarters and all that, because out on the open fields, things feel very, like it's like a standoff, like a perpetual standoff in a weird way. And it's again a very interesting experience. I have to reiterate that. As you see, I tried to run over someone and I kind of failed because the vehicle was so slow apparently that it just didn't quite run anyone over. So that was a tad awkward there. But yeah, vehicles, I mean, it's pretty easy to blow up the vehicles in this game, but again, the bots don't really use the anti-tank classes or anything like that, because again, as I've said a couple of times now, it was a very infantry-heavy mod. I love that the bot literally just took the vehicle and just tried to use the gun. It was a good bait and switch there. I don't think anyone would have done that online. I think, actually, if that was to be done online, I think I would have been the schmuck who got killed there, because knowing my luck, I'm terrible with online shooters. But sadly, yeah, with this game, there isn't really any Australian servers, so it's a bit difficult to get into an online community. I don't even know how active the online community for this game is. I mean, I did see 2 people playing when I popped on to record this, because I've got, again, the servers, this game, the patched version of this game that I've installed has access to the modern online infrastructure and all that, that keeps this game alive in the big 2026. But yeah, there wasn't that many people playing. But of course there was co-op servers, which you only need about 2 or 3 people to get started, and you can still have a good time there. But as you see, I actually wasn't sure where the bots were, because the bots, again, so hard to find on this map sometimes. They're just hiding around the joint, and I don't even know where I got killed there, so I decided I got bored and changed classes. I did like that you could choose between different weapons within the same class. I thought that was a cool little thing that they didn't really do in subsequent games. I mean, I guess they did in Battlefield 2142, but of course that game, you need to unlock them before you could change them up and everything like that. And of course as I've described on that game, your single player experience was very neutered compared to even this game, actually. That game remained probably the worst single player experience until you modded it. But I digress. This game is still pretty solid. The lack of factions, as I said earlier, like Battlefield Vietnam Arsenal definitely expands on that a lot and keeps, like, the same quality standards that this game kept, whilst, expanding it and making it more accurate with the actual factions that fought in the Vietnam War, which is something that I am very much excited to cover. Just because it's, again, so many more maps. I love it. Just give me all the single player maps. I'll vlog videos out of all of them for the next year or so for all I care. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about this game, really. It's a good game in the big 26. Again, I still think Battlefield 2 is a gold standard. And while I was recording this, I was just reminiscing on, there's a reason why I can still go back to Battlefield 2 so often. Like, I don't come back to it all the time, but when I do, it's like, I get lost into it for a little bit and I find more mods and all these other things, and then just go about my business and find something else to play. Whereas with these older games, it's a little bit harder to get back into them. I love how the bots decided to just collectively, like, smoke screen this vehicle. I don't even know if it's like a smoke screen or if it's mustard gas or something. I know various articles of the Geneva Convention were violated during the Vietnam War, but I don't know if they're necessarily replicated in Battlefield Vietnam. I mean, if they are, let me know, because I genuinely got no idea. I know Agent Orange was pretty popular, among other diabolical, evil, awful things that happened in that war. But I digress. This is a video game. It is supposed to be, just a shooter, just a dumb fun shooter, and I imagine quite a lot of people, once again, played this back in the day because it was a fun game to play. I didn't quite get why there's an automatic weapon spread with the snipers, but I also didn't quite understand why the bots just kept spawning on this vehicle. You see, I kept missing all my shots. Clearly, I'm just bad at the game, I guess. But you know, I'm bad at most games I play these days, so you know, it's just what you get from it these days, really. Anyway, furthering on, you can see that it's sort of stalemated out. There isn't really much going on. The bots, the opposing faction bots, keep capturing one particular capture point. It's a bit of a back and forth going between the two. It's kind of fun going back between them, but the movement speed's pretty slow, and there's no sprint and barely any vehicles, so it just makes it just a little bit more tricky just to go on things quickly. So I did end up having to do a lot of jump cuts and edits and whatnot just to keep the coherent flow of the video, because as it stands, I don't really have a lot to say at the moment. I've had an okay, leaning on bad day, and I just wanted to play a game and just talk over it. You know, it's simple as that, really. I thought it was a cool visual effect there with the blowtorch there. It's quite unique. Don't think I've seen anything like that in Battlefield 1942, but it is there in Battlefield Vietnam. But yeah, like, again, guns are good to shoot. Yeah, I really don't have much else to say. It's a nice map. Really am going to be tempted to go back on actually after this and try more maps just to get some more impressions of the game, really, because I don't really have a lot else to say, really. And I do apologize that I mean, no one really gets this far in the video anyway. But it's particularly interesting, just not having a lot to say on a franchise that I've spent so many hours on. On that topic, yeah, I've really spent a lot of time on the Battlefield games. I did love that this class, again, I don't think there's any classes that have grenades in Battlefield Vietnam, but there are classes that do have claymores, and I did want to set them up because I thought it'd be relatively cool to set those up, because it's pretty neat. And I didn't think that there was friendly fire on. I thought there wasn't friendly fire on, because Battlefield 2 they didn't. I guess that was a balancing tweak that they did to prevent people from accidentally taking themselves out, but as we're about to find out a bit later on, that ended up not really working out. Of course, I ended up successfully capturing this point, which ended up turning the battle in the Blue 4 faction's favour. But yeah, I didn't quite realise that you can accidentally blow yourself up, and then I literally spawned on one of the mines and managed to blow myself up. So kind of had to sit and think for that one, because that was a particularly bizarre blunder. But yeah, as you can see here, once you capture this point, they start bleeding and they have to start attacking. And of course, the random spawn points, I didn't really touch on that, but there was the random drop-off spawn points, like the radio spawn points and the like the spawn point with a supply crate, which I thought was really cool. It adds a bit of a dynamic sort of a variety to the battlefield, because again, you're not stuck with just the spawn points that you've got. You can spawn in other places, and of course the alert on the mini-map that has where you, like, if a base is under attack, you know, instead of the command system which Battlefield 2 would later use. You know, there's cool little things that are done differently. It's a different game. It's a very different vibe, and it's an interesting one. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed my time on it, and I'll probably go back onto it straight after I'm done with this video, actually. But yeah, I really don't have much else to say, guys. I apologize, this is a bit of a filler video. I guess I've kind of burnt myself out already. I've done 5 videos in the last 48 hours, so I guess I really do need to slow down and give myself time to have things to say and to have things to do, really, before I do things. But I get a little bit carried away, particularly on a quiet day when I'm still recovering from sickness, and you know, I could be going to the gym, but I'm still sick, and I don't want to make things worse with how things have been, because the last couple of days I ended up feeling a lot worse afterwards, because whatever I was sick with just got me good. But yeah, this was a very clutch battle, and I loved just how abrupt the ending screen was. But on that note, guys, that roughly wraps up the video. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's, again, a bit of a random one, but yeah, I'll leave it here. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.